getting green card under 3 years. This is something like a lot of people are using as a marketing thing or whatever. Like, oh, you can get your green card under 2 years or 3 years and through EB1A. Is that really true or is this a scam?
USCIS checks if you meet at least 3 out of the 10 criterias or not. Many people that assume that's enough, but it is not.
People probably thinks that it's an Einstein visa, you need to have a Nobel Prize, you need to have patents. How true is this? And like, if they don't have it, does it mean they won't get EB1A or O1?
In my opinion, EB1 is not about social media followers, but it's about industry recognition. So just being popular on social media is of no use.
They assume that EB1A is for scientists and researchers only. And if they are a startup founder or like an entrepreneur or a business professional, they might not be even qualified, like an MBA student or an engineering management student. How true is this? Before you watch the video, I want to quickly put a disclaimer. We are not an immigration lawyer, so this is not should be considered as an immigration legal advice. This is purely for educational purposes. Now, Sahil himself got his EB1A green card and he was a testing engineer. And one of the myth I had is like, you have to be a researcher and scientist. And I was like, he himself made it possible, which then led to my ultimate job hunting community. A lot of students of mine are getting into Tesla, Walmart, and they're starting to build their profile. So they asked me a bunch of questions which felt to me was like myths and misunderstanding. So then I said, Sahil, let's do a session on some of the misunderstanding and myths about green card, so then we can burst these myths and we can understand the true concepts of green card. So this is purely for educational purpose. His company does help people with their educational cohort program. They help you figure out your story and your profile for the EB1A profile. They are not the immigration law firm. Again, we talk about this in the end of the video. So if you feel like you are someone who does qualify, highly recommend you to check out, link in the description. You can send an email to support@jineegreencard.com and in the subject line you just mention Yudi, so that way they know that you came through me, and because you came through me you will get an profile evaluation fees completely waived off. Plus you can also schedule free consultation call to take it further if you would like. Again, they are an educational cohort program and not an immigration law firm. I just wanted to clarify that. But now enjoy the video. Thank you, Sahil, for doing this. I think this is around 4 or maybe more. I don't know the count. But for people who might have not seen you before, let's do a quick intro. Who are you? When did you come to United States? And yeah.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Yudi. Again, my name is Sahil. I'm founder of Jinee. I'm an EB1A recipient who basically went through the whole shebang of F1, H1B visa, was a test automation engineer, then was leading engineering at a couple of different companies, and then got my EB1 code. Have started working on Jinee since then. So, the usual chores of like an immigrant who moves to United States.
Nice. I love it. And of course, for people who haven't watched our previous video, we have covered in depth of Sahil's journey of like how he went from F1 to green card, and you got it under 3 years.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay. So maybe that's what I want to like today's video. I want to focus on is like myths and misconception about green card, because since we've made videos, many people have doubts or many people have misunderstanding or myths. So maybe we can help them clarify. And first thing I want to start with is getting green card under 3 years. This is something like a lot of people are using as a marketing thing or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you can get your green card under 2 years or 3 years and through EB1A. Is that really true or is this a scam?
A few nuances to it. I mean, some people do get EB1A based green cards within 2 to 3 years, but it depends on several factors. If you have strong experience, a high salary, and you work on yourself for like 6 to 18 months, 2 years, and have additional EB1A criteria, you can definitely get I-140 approved quickly. The difference between I-140 versus green card processing is while I-140 can be approved in a shorter period of time, Form I-485, the adjustment of status, depends on visa availability. So, for example, for Indian born applicants, as of now, the priority date is stuck at February 2022. So, meaning there is at least 3 years of wait for the green card after the I-140 approval. But if you do have a priority date in any other category, like EB2 or EB3, and if that's before February of 2022, that means you are current in EB1 and you can port that date. So if you're not
Mm.
from, or if you're not from India or China, you might get both I-140 and I-485 approved within months, since EB1 is current for most countries. So I will say like the key is strategic planning. If you have gaps in your profile, work on them for 6 to 18 months, upskill yourself, increase your recognition, prepare a strong case before applying. You definitely should be able to get like an I-140 approval under 3 years if you have a strong base. But again, 485 depends on the visa bulletin, and if you have a priority date in any other category or not, to be able to port that and utilize that to get your green card in hand.
Got it. Okay. I'm just gonna rephrase it and let me know if I'm wrong. So technically, you, because the priority date, at least for EB1A category for Indians, is February 2022. So by default, you will not get your green card in hand in 3 years,
Correct.
but you get your I-140 approved under 3 years, and then 485 depends on when and how and all of it.
Correct. Yes.
Okay. Uh, can you like quickly explain? Maybe we have covered this in the previous videos, but what is I-140 and I-485?
So I-140 is basically like the approval notice. Like, hey,
Mm.
we are approving you. So if you get an I-140, that basically means like, okay, we accept your case, you're good to go. 485
Mm.
is the actual change of status. Like, okay, yeah, we approved you, but now we have the time to like have you in and basically allocate the visa for you based on like the annual
Mm.
quota for each year. So that's the difference. So once you get I-140 approved, like majority of the hurdle is solved. And then 485 is like the actual change of status. Just keep in mind, is like you continue to want to like work in the field for which you got on the I-140 approved for. Like, don't
Mm.
start doing something else, or
Mm.
at least have some relation to why you got an I-140 approved at the first place.
And does that mean if my I-140 is approved and if I was on H-1B, I technically can extend my H-1B?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Until my 485.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, cool. So now I want to talk about criteria. First of all, I think there's a lot of confusion. There are, I think, 8 criteria for O1 and 10 for EB1A. And I know people say, oh, all you have to do is just meet these 3 criteria and you will get your green card. uh, it can be like, what is the misunderstanding myth about this thing? And then, like, what are the criteria even mean?
Yeah. So absolutely not. Meeting three criteria alone does not guarantee an approval. That's a common misconception. That's the step one. USCIS checks if you meet at least 3 out of the 10 criterias or not. Many people that assume that's enough, but it is not. Step two is a final merits determination. So USCIS evaluates the overall impact of your work, whether you have sustained recognition or not, and whether you truly qualify as one of the top experts in your field. Simply checking off 3 criteria without a clear narrative of extraordinary ability or long term contributions and industry influence might likely result in a denial or noid or an RFE. So you basically want to work on multiple different criterias, strengthen your industry impact, ensure your case tells a compelling story. Like, don't look at criteria in silos. Like, that's the biggest
Mm.
mistake people make. Like, okay, I will write 5 research paper, I will have X amount of citations, I will have X patents. Does not work like that. It has to be a compelling story. It's a very much equivalent of like the gold card. Like, there you are
Mm.
there the barter is money for a green card. Here the barter is like your skills for a green card. Like, what exactly are you bringing to the table, and you need to very clearly explain that through your story. It needs to be very cohesive. Like, you basically are working on a certain research work, and then you were interested in that field and you're contributing on the same project with your employer. That project got featured in media. All of this is related. It's not like an individual criteria in silo. That is why like just having 3 criteria is not enough. That's just one aspect of it. There needs to be a compelling story. There needs to be final merits that overall you are making contribution within the field that you are claiming to be an expert in.
Got it. Okay, makes sense. So again, this comes from one of the discussion I was having with my student. Like she's from my ultimate job hunting student. She got it in Microsoft, and I told her, like, you should start looking into O1 and EB1A, and she saw one of our videos, and she felt instantly that she said, like, I don't have PhD, I don't have patents, like I don't think I'll qualify for EB1A. And I was like, when we're discussing this topic, I was like, I need to ask this to Sahil as well. Like, people probably thinks that it's an Einstein visa, you need to have a Nobel Prize, you need to have patents. How true is this? And like, if they don't have it, does it mean they won't get EB1A or O1?
So you do not need a PhD, citations, or patents in order to like qualify for EB1A. Many successful EB1A applicants come from business, finance, entrepreneurship, senior engineers, arts, sports, and other fields. So there's no requirement of PhD first and foremost, and second, citations and patents, they're not even a criteria. They're part of original contribution criteria. So original contribution could be anything. It could be like the goal is to prove your impact in your field. It could be through your critical projects that you are part of as part of your job. It could be any copyrights that you have. It could be multiple different factors. Maybe you're a startup advisor, that counts as like one of the original contribution if you're advising them, and that's just one category. Then you have high salary, you have media coverage, you have judging. You can do original contribution through leadership, innovations, business impact. You can prove critical role in a distinguished organization. So if you lack academic credentials, you focus on professional achievements that show industry-wide recognition and impact, and vice versa. If you're lacking the professional achievements, then you focus more on academic credentials. So that's why you need to first figure out like where do you stand. Like, are you more of like an academic or a PhD or a researcher sort of an individual, or are you more of like a professional individual, or are you an entrepreneur or involved in business?
Yeah.
Based on that, craft your story. Like, for example, like someone who's like an entrepreneur and like is really good in business, he would not have any research work or citations or patent. That's not what his goal is. His goal is completely different, and if he tries to do that, it will look so out of place for his profile. So you need to figure out like where you are making contribution and what aligns well with your work and your contribution.
Yeah, and I know, just shouting out to our previous video, we talked about two of the criteria in depth. So if people want to understand more of that, I'll put the link in the description so they can watch it. And as you were mentioning, that was another thing that one of the student asked me is like, they assume that EB1A is for scientists and researchers only. And if they are a startup founder or like an entrepreneur or a business professional, they might not be even qualified, like an MBA student or an engineering management student. How true is this?
That's not true. You can come from a field of business, finance, entrepreneurship, arts, sports, and many of these other fields. I mean, EB1A got popular with like technical people in last few years, but before that, it was all like these people only, business, finance, entrepreneurs who kind of like were filing for EB1s and O1s. So yeah, absolutely not true at all.
Hey, before we move on to the next part of the video, I want to quickly talk about our newsletter community, which you can be part of absolutely free. We are now going strong and we have more than 40,000 people in our newsletter community. So imagine 40,000 people are receiving my newsletter every single week, twice a week, where I break down all of the stories that we did and make it a valuable resource for you. So if you're someone who doesn't have time to watch this and you just want to get an email with all of the resources into an email, that is the place to be. I'll put the link in the description. I'll give you some example. This is the one for Tanvi, where how she got 2 co-ops and she paid off her entire master's fees. This is an example of Maya, where she got 3 co-ops and she paid off her fees plus a little bit of savings. Here is an example of Sahil, who got his green card in 3 years. here is an example where we shared bunch of resources on job hunting. So I promise this is going to be valuable resource for you, and it doesn't cost you anything. If you want to be part of our newsletter community, link will be in the description, or you can go to link.udj.com/newsletter. This is the URL. And now I'll let you enjoy the video. Got it. Okay. And I know you touched briefly on the research and papers and all of it. One of the other common question is, because a lot of my audience is master students, so and a lot of time they do masters as a thesis program, which means they have to write a paper at the end of their program. Can that be considered as an original or scholarly contribution?
Again, it widely depends. In isolation, I don't think a thesis or a dissertation alone will qualify as a significant scholarly contribution.
Mm.
I think USCIS is looking for real world impact, citations, or industry applications of your research. If your thesis, let's say, was widely cited in research papers, reports, or industry
Mm.
wide papers, or if it led to patents, policy changes, or commercial applications, or if you published parts of it in peer reviewed journals or major conferences, that's one way where I think a lot of this can be utilized. But if the research hasn't gained, like if the thesis or the dissertation in itself hasn't gained any industry wide recognition, then stand alone in itself, I personally feel it won't help the EB1A case much. Again, no legal advice.
If that is the case, then like assuming, like you said, like, maybe I have a professional achievements but I don't have academic, and maybe I should do some research, and because that'll help me with that. So can I use, in the AI world, AI, chat GPT, Claude, something to write my research papers?
It's funny you asked this question. So USCIS looks for authenticity. So AI generated content without validation by real experts will not be persuasive. So I would highly recommend to not use AI to write your papers. I'm not sure if I told you this story or not, but a while ago, like I think a couple of months ago, someone reached out to me after they got an RFE and they wanted to work with me. And then one of the line which I read in his response was, um, all the articles submitted by the petitioner appears to be generated by AI very quickly.
Mm.
And then it said something along the lines of like, even though like his material qualifies for the basic criteria of scholarly articles, it sheds a light on like the original value of these papers or something along those lines was like clearly specified in the petition. And that kind of like makes me think like USCIS is really sophisticated or are they becoming sophisticated at some of those things. So I would highly advise not to use AI, and I would probably say like ensure you have like real examples, verifiable claims. Don't use AI to paraphrase. Language is not really important, content is. So in general, my advice would be is to not use AI. You can use tools like overlay for skyspace and structure your paper, but make sure it's your own content, like, and you're not doing too much of like paraphrasing as well using
Mm.
the AI tools. Again, it could fly, but I probably would shy away from
Yeah.
relying too much on AI.
And now I know there are businesses and scammers out there who are also selling a, like, I can pay us this much and I'll like give you a research paper and publish it for you in some articles and magazine.
Yeah.
What's your take on that?
Yeah. Absolutely horrible. I think I always talk about like how you want to use this to like upskill yourself and not just simply think from the perspective of the visa. I don't think
Yeah,
it's the
like
best
gaming the
strategy.
system basically.
Correct, correct. And no
Yeah.
one would be able. Everyone has such specific story and like their own work and projects and like work experience. How can someone else write like an appropriate research work for you? They'll just look into a bigger topic and will probably just write something because you are the subject matter expert, not someone else who's like doing this stuff.
And what if you get asked questions in your interview?
Yeah, yeah. I've seen and I've heard from a lot of different attorneys that the number of interviews have also gone up as compared to like
Mm.
last year. Even one of our attorneys, Poonam ji, who I was talking to the other day, she was saying like the number of interviews are getting ridiculously high. So if you're having interviews and if they ask about it, You don't want to be in that situation. So I'd probably just say like, mm, work and upskill
Avoid.
yourself, but yeah, avoid cutting shortcuts.
Yeah. And morally also you won't feel like, because again, this is supposed to be an extraordinary ability. So you want to do work for yourself.
Correct.
Anyway, I'm digressing. But another question I got asked is because again, this O1 and EB1 has gotten really popular, and a lot of the people who have received, they're also now becoming influencers or whatever. So people by default assume that I have to have a large social media following and I need to become an influencer. I need to post stuff. How true is this?
I feel there's both side to it. There's also like people who are working on their profile who think that they need to be like very active on social media or like post about their work. So e- in my opinion, EB1 is not about social media followers, but it's about industry recognition. So just being popular on social media is of no use unless you utilize it for your advantage. For example, you are able to like um, get invitations to speak at conferences, or
Mm.
you get light and you're able to like connect with like do media pitching for yourself, or you're able to build partnership or like kind of get connected with a startup and become an advisor there. So as long as like you're able to utilize it as long as you're able to utilize it as a tool to basically seek out other opportunities, peer recognition, impact, leadership, then it helps. Otherwise, just being active and being like an influencer status and like having more followers, that's of no use. It should be used as a tool to kind of like get some work done, which is the base pillar of the EB1A.
Mm. So in my case, now next week I'm invited to Northeastern Product Conference. Last year I was invited to Purdue Conference, and then at the end of this month I'm also going to Arizona State University for another product conference. So all these obviously because they are seeing me on social media and they have been invited, and one of them also judging the competition. So these all would help me in terms of my profile if I were
Correct.
to file my U1A.
Correct. Because that's the
So maybe.
actual work which you are doing in your industry.
Mm, okay. So maybe you should file my EB1. No, just kidding. All right. I think that's where I want to stop here, and then maybe people will have more questions, and then we can review those questions and do it next month. Another session on this topic, but. How do you guys help with the candidates? Because I think that's another question I keep getting asked. Like, so how does Sahil's team help? So maybe you can share that as well.
Yeah, we run an educational cohort. Like our goal is to like help you figure out a story about yourself, because most of the people are like initially clueless, just like I was, of
Mm.
like what exactly is my story? Because we are all doing so many things in our own life, and we don't really know like what holds value. So the goal is to like help you figure out a story, have a compelling narrative, and then
So
have
you are not replacement of immigration lawyer.
no, absolutely not. We partner with like most of the immigration attorneys, because like our goal is to like help you work on yourself, upskill you, give you the resources, the professors, the media pitching part of it, um, um, have a story for you, like which what exactly makes sense. I've saved so much time and money for people, because I in my case I was going after like random stuff like, okay, maybe I need a patent. Absolutely not. The patent does not mean an original contribution. So I'm trying to like
Mm.
help them navigate this, give them a community where, let's say like if you and I are both working in supply chain optimization, then why not work together and collaborate on something. I
Mm.
find a lot of different opportunities for them, like, hey, this conference is happening, this event is happening, this judging event is happening, go there, pitch yourself here, this particular person does this, he's high up here, go and pitch out to him, see if he can help you out. So that's exactly what the goal of the program is to basically help you craft a strong narrative, help you with all the different criteria, save you time and money that you otherwise are going to put into it unnecessarily, give you a lot of like opportunities around final merits, help you understand, and then like have you work with like various different attorneys who can like then file your petition and draft your case in a very strategic manner. So that's exactly like where we sit right now.
Yeah, amazing, cool. I love it, and I know, like I've spoken to some of your customers as well, so it's pretty cool. Awesome. I think this is good. I can't wait to do this again for round 5, and
Mhm.
we'll talk about O1 next time, or maybe some other different topics. But thank you, Sahil. Until our next one.
Keep smiling, keep hustling.
Nice.